Welcome to the Great Man Within podcast. And by now, I hope you know that every episode is designed to help you discover and live the great man within you. Now, today we are talking about a topic that is near and dear to my heart, that is essential to you showing up in optimal performance every single day, to you living a life of passion, having vitality in your everyday existence, for you to be connected fully to your purpose and living from your greatest energy regularly. And yet it's a topic that most men are not talking about. It's a topic that most men ignore completely, that I know that I sucked at for 37 or 38 years of my life. But once I started taking seriously, it upgraded all areas of my life. And it's a conversation about how to design your recovery strategy. And by recovery, what I'm talking about is knowing the things that when your tank is empty because you've been pushing and doing and working and fulfilling your responsibilities, that you know the levers that you can pull that refill your tank physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Because here's the thing that I know. I know that men are applauded for pushing and performing and pushing and performing and persevering past the point that lesser men would stop at. We celebrate the man who overcame insurmountable odds. We applaud the man who is the first one in the office and the last one to leave, right? We applaud the man who keeps going when everyone else has given up, and for good reason, right? Like, these are men who show us like the next level. They're the ones who inspire us to bring out more inside of us than we thought was possible. These men should absolutely be applauded. But in many cases, we also ignore the downstream ramifications of that behavior over an extended period of time. Because many times, these men are doing these things at the detriment to their long-term well-being and health, many times resulting in stress, in panic attacks, in heart attacks, or losing their lives as a result. We've seen men do this single-focusedly, single-mindedly to the detriment of their family and the relationships in their lives that they've also made commitments to. And so what we are talking about here, and by the way, one of the other things that we're really good at doing after we've pushed and pushed and pushed is we're really great at disappearing. Disappearing has been our default recovery strategy. Disappearing into, and these are all things that I've done personally, into drinking, into overeating, into porn, into binge watching Netflix and disappearing on my couch, because like I push, and I don't consciously know where my edge is, but when I tip over, then I just want to say, fuck it. And that fuck it sends me into one of those disappearing strategies, which helps alleviate some of the pain in the short term, but I never fully come back from those experiences feeling like my tank is full. It's like, I'm just picturing, like, one of my favorite video games when I was a kid was Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, right, on Nintendo. And when I'm little Mac and I'm getting my ass kicked, I'm getting punched, like I watch that, like that power bar go all the way down. And when I would, in my real life, like do things like just drink myself into oblivion, or I would porn or whatever, just disappear into these places. Yeah, maybe my power tank might go back up to 25 or 30% just by the very nature of me not doing work. I never got back to 100%. And I always felt like I was just kind of coming back into the game lesser than I could be. And yet over these last 3 or 4 years, where I've got super intentional and I've really prioritized what it means for me to recover, that every day I find out like I can push my edges and I can know where that edge is. And I rarely push past the point of that. So physically speaking, I'm very rarely hurt, even though I push myself quite like demandingly physically. I very rarely push myself to the point of burnout where I'm like resentful or overwhelmed by the work that I've taken on. And yet I feel like I produce quite a bit. I very rarely take on so many commitments that I let my relationships to the people who matter most to me lapse. And a lot of this has to do with knowing where my edges are, knowing where to bump up against them, and then also consciously designing recovery strategies. So by the end of this episode, I just want to give you some like some real practical techniques on thinking about how you can restore your physical energy, mental energy, emotional energy, and spiritual energy, and design like regular recovery strategies that help fill your tank. A few months ago, I was working with one of my recovery specialists. His name is Joe. He runs Premier Sports Recovery, where he helps elite athletes focus on recovery strategies, because he's finding that with elite athletes at all levels, the NBA, the MLB, the NFL, that one of the things that like they've almost mastered is how to optimize their performance, right? Like how to go into the gym and to like the lifting strategies, the food and nutrition strategies. Like those things have been optimized and focused on for so long, but the newer frontier that like still requires a lot more emphasis is on recovery. So elite athletes are spending much more time figuring out how their bodies repair, what kind of sleep they need, going into hyperbaric oxygen chambers to restore, like to circulate oxygen through their body to recover more quickly. What are the kind of stretching techniques to bring like fluidity to their body? Like one of the reasons why I went to Joe is because he offers this program called fascial stretch therapy. And he's here in New York City. You can look him up on Premier Sports Recovery. One of the things that I was finding, physically speaking, was that no matter how long I worked out my lower body, I would always be sore for days afterwards. Even if I was working out regularly and doing squats and lunges, it would take me 3 or 4 days to recover fully, until I went to Joe, who does this thing called fascial stretch therapy. Fascia is like this, I guess you could call it like a saran wrap that goes on inside your body. Like it covers all of the muscles and tendons in your body. I'm not a doctor, so I may be hitting some of this wrong, but at a high level, this analogy holds. And then like when your body is stiff, the saran wrap stiffens. It makes like, it kind of just creates like a stiffness in your body, which makes it hard for your body to recover or to feel like you're fluid or flexible. And when I started doing this stretch therapy with Joe, which is him basically like moving my legs regularly, bringing fluidity back into my joints, what I found was I would recover in 24 hours. And the soreness went down. And I also, like my weights went up by a good 10 to 15% just by doing like the stretching therapy. That's like one of the small ways that I've used recovery, at least in my physical space, right? But I look at these other elite athletes like a Justin Verlander, who's I think about 38 years old, a baseball pitcher. I think he won the Cy Young this past year, and 38 years of age, like that's pretty old. He sleeps 9 hours a night and is like vigilant about that because that's where his body recovers. Napoleon Hill talks about when he would write, and he's a prolific writer, that he would write for maybe I think like 30 to 45 minutes at a clip, but it would take so much of his energy that he would need to get up from his typewriter and then go over to his piano and play his piano for 20 minutes so that he could let the weight of his work go and then get back with a full tank to produce the best. And I'm talking about the people who are the fucking best. And we have every reason to learn from these guys, right? Because like we want to be optimized in our own lives. And so one of the things that I've noticed over these last 2 or 3 weeks, as I have been really burning it hard to service you, to service the men in my mastermind, like I am producing on a daily basis these podcasts, which require a lot of my thinking and my best thought, and then recording it and then putting it out in the world. I'm spending more and more time with the men in my mastermind, doing one-on-ones and doing regular weekly events with these guys, plus all of the other work that I'm responsible for. Monday through Friday, I am external. I'm burning it hard, and I'm doing probably 12-hour, 13-hour days each day, which I've consciously designed. But I'm also someone that I would consider to be an ambivert, right? Like I'm good at flexing externally for a period of time, and then I just need to go into my own space where like I don't need, like where no one needs anything from me. And so what I've done over these last few weekends on a Saturday is I've shut myself off from the world. I let the most important people in my life know that like I'll be available in the morning, but then the rest of the day I'm like on my own. And I want to share with you like how I physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually set up that day for me, in the hopes that like you can go through the same exercise, because these are 4 questions that I want you to ask about what fills your tank physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, that you could pull on that lever at any point in time over the course of a day, or to set up a chunk of time for yourself on the weekend, or maybe an entire day, depending on the flexibility of your family life. Because I have found that I can go hard for an extended period of time if I know I've got a consciously designed recovery strategy for myself. So here are the 4 questions, and then I want to show you how like I've set up my day. What fills my tank physically? It's super simple for me, guys. I need a good quality 8+ hours of sleep for me to feel like, physically I'm going to be fully at capacity. And I need to be asleep in that like 10 to 11:30 p.m. window, that 90-minute window that is super important for me the night before. I know that the food I eat needs to be like whole green veggies, healthy fats, organic grass-fed meats. And then I also, what did I write down here? I also need to know that I have exercise on the horizon. Okay. So physically, I need to make sure that like sleep, food, and exercise is going to be on that Saturday. What fills my tank mentally? I need to give myself permission to know that I'm not going to do a single ounce of work on Saturday. No emails, no responding to text messages or phone calls, nothing about getting like a newsletter or an email thing set up. Even when my mind starts to ruminate or think about or plan for, I stop myself. I mentally give myself permission to know that like on Sunday, I can ease back into it, but Saturday is my day of play. And then I also want to read a book like intellectually stimulating that helps expand my horizon. What fills my tank emotionally is knowing that I will only talk to my inner circle, the people who I care about the most on that Saturday. And then also knowing that I have a big chunk of time where I just do me. And then finally, what fills my tank spiritually? For me, it's meditation and then dreaming big, like moonshotting the work that I want to do here in this world and helping serve 10 million men getting on this path of doing inner work over the next 10 years. So the way that all plays out is on my Saturday, I make sure basically starting the night before on that Friday night, I go to bed between 10 and 11:30 p.m. I don't get up until I sleep like 8 to 9 hours. So I wake with like a tank that's full already. I make sure that like I have my coffee set up, that I've got my meals like lined up for the day. I will exercise. I'll do my like 5 or 6 mile run around the city right now before noon. And one of the things that I'll do probably while I'm drinking my coffee is I'll read a book. Like right now, it's Peggy Orenstein's Boys and Sex, which is a whole book about like how young boys get socialized into the world of sex and power dynamics and porn and how we can be doing a much better thing. And then I already have permission to not do any work. So even when like emails are piling up or people are emailing or texting me, I just say, cool, not till tomorrow. And I check in with my family and the people that matter to me most in the morning so that like by 2:00, I'm shut down for the day. No one's getting to me unless I choose later on. So I'll go inward and I'll do a 3 or 4 hour meditation. These last few weeks, these last few Saturdays, I've gone off the grid and done 3 or 4 hours worth of meditation. When it's over, I come out, I cook myself a really healthy meal, and then I'll sit down and I'll watch something on television that I really enjoy. The past few weeks, it's been Band of Brothers. I've just finished watching that series, which has been fantastic. And by the end of that night, I'll probably go to bed sometime around like 9:30 or 10 o'clock, something quite early because I want another full night of sleep. And when I wake up on Sunday, I'm back in the game. Like I'm fully restored. And I still have another full day where like I could choose not to do any work. And I do a little bit of it, but I really only come back in for like the full day of really doing a lot of outward work on Monday. And I've grown to just like fall in love with these Saturdays. I've grown to fall in love with these recovery strategies because like it allows me to push, knowing that I have like some respite on the horizon that has been tried and true that fills my tank. So my body always feels good. I'm enjoying the process. I never feel like this is a heavy burden to carry or there's like too much weight. I know what it's like to push and to perform and to produce while not enjoying any of it. And like to just churn out achievements left and right and to feel just kind of like, ugh, that was a grind doing it. I'm no longer willing to do that. And I'm no longer willing to feel like everything's an obligation, right? So what I would encourage you to do is to get really clear on what is your recovery strategy, to prioritize that, because recovery is your gateway to optimal performance, to living a life of passion that allows you to serve your ultimate purpose here in life. And one of the guys who does a really nice job of balancing this is Wim Hof, right? The Iceman. And I signed up for his 10-week course online. I paid $100 USD to be a part of that for the next 10 weeks. He's got an app, the Wim Hof Method, which is free, that you can get some of the same benefits just by following the free stuff he's got on there. But Wim is really good about talking about no force, right? Just like doing the exercises without force, just like participating in it fully. And, this guy has performed at the highest of levels. He's got like 2 dozen Guinness Book of World Records for subjecting himself to cold, because he's gradually expanded his capacity for ultimate performance, because he also knows how to recover well. And I look for guys like him who are shining examples of how to be able to push your edge, but knowing how to do so thoughtfully and then recovering when the time calls for it. And that guy looks like he's having the most fucking fun in the world. He's always laughing and making jokes, and he's on like every TV show now. I mean, the guy's flying around the world. Like, who's living a better life than Wim Hof right now? Give me some of that. And a piece of that is learning how to recover. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you know someone who needs to benefit from these daily podcasts, who especially needs to work on the recovery strategy, send this along to them. Let them know that this is something that will contribute to these overall ultimate performance. And I want to thank you for tuning in today and listening to the end of this episode so that you can live the great man within you.